Hey, I'm Shabir Sulthan, and I'm a music artist and a film composer. In the first episode of Project Zero, I speak with two remarkable artists who have made waves both globally and locally. In the spotlight, we have Jean Go, known as Jean Seizure, a Singaporean singer-songwriter who has achieved extraordinary recognition. Jean has graced the New York Times Square Billboard through the 2022 Spotify Equal campaign and the 2023 Spotify Glow launch campaign, becoming the only Southeast Asian artist among the 12 global launch artists selected. Joining us on this episode is also Shazza, whose real name is Sharifa Amina, a local singer-songwriter who recently went viral on TikTok for collaborating with Canadian pop duo Crash Adams. Her immense talent has earned her a shout-out from British band Coldplay during their Singapore tour this year. Join us as we delve into topics of identity, breaking into the global music scene, and the untapped power of the Singaporean artist. This is Project Zero, a journey to discover the Singapore sound. Shazza and Jean, welcome.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. Yeah, thank you for coming.
Thank you for
very
having
much.
us. Yeah.
So let's start with Jean.
Yes. What?
I just want to know, tell us a little bit about, we have that moment where we feel like maybe this is something that I could do. From enjoying it to a point when, I want to do something like that, What was that moment for you?
I think that moment for me was when I wrote my first song. Yeah, because before that it was always like I'm covering somebody else's song. So then when I finally wrote something that I could call my own, I was like, hey, what if I wrote more, and then maybe from there on it could lead to something else.
How old were you at that point?
I think I was 17.
Right, okay. What was that about? Do you remember?
Yes.
Okay.
I was caught in a very sticky situation, and I liked this person, and I didn't know what to do with my feelings, and I couldn't really tell anyone. So then I wrote the song, and that kind of became a thing for me. I was constantly writing about my feelings for people that I can't tell anyone else about.
And it became like a catharsis for you.
Yes, it was a catharsis for me.
And I'm sure you didn't realize it at that point, right?
At that point,
this just feels good, the kind of thing. Yeah,
it just felt like, I feel heard by myself, Yeah.
And Shazza, your first song was what? I think 11 or 12 or something
I
like
wrote
that.
at 11.
And you wrote a love song.
It was a breakup song.
It was a breakup song. But you were not going through a breakup or something,
No,
right?
that's the thing. It wasn't about me. What?
No. You know what? Weirdly, I can relate to that.
Interesting.
Because when I read about that, and when I saw that, you wrote a breakup song, a heartbreak song at 11, I was like, damn, that's uncanny. Because I was 12 and I wrote a breakup song too, and I wasn't going through a breakup.
Right.
Yeah. So when I read the story, I was like, this is crazy. It's very similar,
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
I'm just trying to mimic, actually.
And it was that basically because
right.
a lot of songs are love songs and breakup songs. I think it was a matter of that's what I listened to growing up. So I kind of tried to mimic that when I was trying to start writing. Yeah.
And it's not like we understand what those feelings mean.
It's kind of just singing and trying. Yeah, it would be weird. Yeah. I had no concept of the idea of genuine heartbreak and stuff. I was kind of just wailing, oh please. It was terrible. It was such a bad song, but it was so fun to be able to create something like that,
Right.
and mimic what I loved. I so loved listening to and singing along to. So yeah.
And when you guys were growing up, and I'm sure there was music playing at home, and because we're Singaporeans, right?
Yeah.
So we wouldn't just have one particular genre or language playing at home, most probably, or it could be one particular genre or language at home, but we go to school and then we get exposed to different things.
Yeah.
So us being bilingual, multilingual also leads to us listening to many genres,
Yes.
That's
naturally, right?
Yeah.
Even if we don't, our parents are listening or someone from the family is listening and we're still listening,
Yes.
Because that's something you can't stop listening.
It's true. It's true.
Eyes you can
Stay.
shut, ears there's little you can do, yeah.
Yeah.
So when that happens, how did that influence you in the beginning? It's a bit different because our musical diet is so diverse, compared to maybe someone from a different country where you listen to one particular kind of music
Or
and
language.
stuff. Yeah, or
Yeah.
language,
True.
So how does that like, how did that influence you in the beginning?
I think for me, when I was in primary school, my music influence was mostly Taiwanese music. Like my mom was teaching a lot of students how to sing and all that. So my favorite singer was Zhang Huimei, who is Ame. And then when I went to school, though, everybody like they were listening to Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, and I was just like, "Who are these people?" And then my brothers were listening to Linkin Park,
Right.
so it was very different. But in that sense, like I think I saw sort of like how different my family was compared to like the people that I hung out with in school. So in some ways, like that also made me curious about like Western pop. And then from there, I'm like, oh, okay, actually, I quite like, I don't think I like Britney Spears. I think I was into, actually, I was into Linkin Park.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I quite like them.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I like were they the ones who did the Transformer music?
Were they?
I think so.
Transformer, you mean?
From the first Transformers movie.
What's that? What I've done.
Yeah.
Linkin Park is really sick. Yeah, I grew up on Linkin Park as well.
For a 12-year-old child. Yeah.
Very, very healthy diet, Yeah.
Thank you.
But it's
and then
an
go home and
essential.
sing Chinese songs. Yes.
But that's what I'm very fascinated about. And that's one of those things why I wanted to initiate the project as well, to have these conversations. But oddly enough, we don't get a lot of platforms to talk about this particular aspect of the Singaporean musician, If we're talking about genre and we're talking about, we always build a bridge with someone who is similar to us, and we have conversations about that. And let's say when we're in an interview, then we talk about our music and our influences. But what about the cross-pollination in terms of language and genre? So that's something which I'm quite curious, to talk about.
I never actually thought about it that way, because when people talk about the Singaporean sound, as with many things Singaporean, it's very rojak. Like that's all I would be able to say about it. But
how do you describe it?
How do you describe it, right? Because I think we are so influenced by different genres of music. Like for myself, at home, growing up, it was interesting because all members of my family listened to very different things. So my dad was very into Bollywood and Hollywood music. So I had a healthy diet of that. And then I also had my mom, who was very into Nora Jones, and she had Frank Sinatra playing, and then we'd also listen to the radio a lot. My brother was into Black Eyed Peas.
Oh, nice.
That was something that I listened. So it was very, very diverse. And I think in that sense, it kind of, now that I look back, I can see like bits of it that have found their way into my music subconsciously. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about the Singapore sound, when we started this project, it's not like we know what it is. We actually have no clue. We're sitting here having no idea.
Because I'm like, who knows what? Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to
and I had preliminary conversations with like Dick Lee and Professor Jeremy Montero, a couple of people, Jean, even we spoke about it briefly, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not coming from a place of, okay, I know what it is, come, let's talk about it. I'm like, I have no idea, let's talk about it.
Great.
Let's find out.
Let's find out together. That's the idea. And I realized that in the course of my research that there is not, even if there's not going to be a Singapore sound. There are going to be Singapore sounds.
Yeah.
Correct? Because Bangsawan is, when it's done in Singapore in a particular manner, it's going to be a Singapore sound. The Gerta is going to be a Singapore sound when it's sung in Singapore in a particular context. And same goes to, Indian semi-classical, etc. So there are going to be multiple sounds. And then there are going to be points where we meld, where we meet, correct? And how we meet, what's the approach to that meet? Is it done for CMIO purpose, or is it done, from a place where you are genuinely curious about each other's, musical heritage, and you want to learn something, or, you want to impart something. So these things will change the complexion of what we call the Singapore sound, bracket S sounds. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think that's the thing that we want to like mainly talk about, and we want to get your thought as well. So there is this thing that, I'm in the middle because I'm in between two generations. I'm sandwiched, okay? So I speak to, the generation who kind of was very involved in the whole movement, like from Asia Bagus. They were very conscious about that thing, like what it means to be Singaporean, And then I've got a daughter who's 16, so I also understand that there's another generation where it depends. It depends on what they're watching, on what they're reading, how they identify themselves and stuff. And then I thought, okay, it'll be cool to initiate conversations where we get, everyone's point of view and stuff. So when I say Singapore sound, okay, when I say something like that, it's so broad and intangible, right? What comes to your mind? Don't say NDP.
No. From like my perspective, I think there is the indie folk Chinese like sound, which they call I don't know, I think they're called Tan Chang Ren or something. At one point they had like a whole like people playing at the cafe, and they would write their own like a version of Singapore music, and the lyrics are filled with like talking about living in HDB and stuff like that. So like that's one of the things that come to mind, mostly on the Chinese side. Yeah, Singapore sound. And then there's like Sam Willows.
That's just real. Yes. Local pop.
Yes,
right?
local pop, like Lining.
Yep.
There's also like the Bay Beats kind of sound.
The metal.
The metal. Yeah,
rock.
which is quite like a vibrant community also in Singapore,
yes,
right?
It's huge, yeah.
Shazza, what about you? Like, what comes to your mind when I say that?
Like she's saying, it's very diverse in general, and Singapore sound to me sounds like a huge amalgamation of different things, and I can also understand how people might look at it and think that it's imitative, because I think we are at a position where we are looking out at the world and taking in other inspiration and trying to make it our own. And I think Singaporeans have a bad habit of not a bad habit, but they sorry guys, not a bad habit. No, I mean more like there's that stigma that if it comes from Singapore, it can't be good.
No, it is a bad habit.
It is, but it's understandable because I can admit that I've had the same, like thoughts growing up, like because it's something we're so exposed to is that international music is the standard. And I'm not saying it's not, because it's doing well for a reason. But I think because of how much that's perpetuated, people tend to overlook the fact that we can be as good as them. And that it's not something we constantly have to aspire towards, Yeah. So like, for example, when I put out stuff and people like it, some of the comments I get are like, when I heard this on the radio, I thought it was an international artist.
Malaysian voice.
They're like, oh, I thought this was an international artist. Then I'm like, it sounds like a backhanded compliment.
Actually, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're
because
right.
it's like, oh, I'm glad they like it, but why does it have to be from somewhere else just because
for it
it's
to be good, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I had the same experience somehow, because when I wrote my first song, I sent it to my friend, and then she let my classmate hear it, and he was like, "Oh, that's Jean." Like I thought it was some like Angmo artist.
It's always like that,
And I'm like,
but the thing is, when you hear it in the moment, because it's so stigma, like so. How to say, it's so embedded in us, you feel like it's a good thing, like oh my god, you sound like
Yep.
You think about it, you're like, wait a minute,
like, why
backhanded, for sure. I mean, I get that too. When I went into India to do the films and the score and stuff, which is quite unprecedented for a Singaporean artist to do like 8 films in India. And a lot of comments were like, oh, finally, a Singaporean can do something in India. That kind of thing. Damn.
Oh my god.
That's harsh. Okay.
That's harsh. Hey, we're not useless, okay?
Because this industry has existed for like hundreds of years. And we existed for like a few years or so, right? Yeah. So I mean, think about it, right? You mentioned that there's a lot of things coming into the mix, and that's a blessing, but that can also turn into a bane, because when there's too much, then you don't know which direction to take. That's one thing. And sometimes we suffer from a certain sense of identity crisis as Singaporeans.
Yeah.
And that kind of spills over to the music as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
for sure.
And the art is a means for us to process and kind of find ourselves, correct?
Yeah.
But not everybody is given that opportunity, correct? Because art makes a person more sensitive. It makes them more understanding. It makes them more empathetic.
Right.
And those people who are commenting, who are saying that, I thought it's an international artist. They may not have the opportunity to kind of explore in that manner,
It's true.
Yeah. And it's also the priorities, right? Like I spoke to a friend of mine who's got a son, and, he said that, I just want my son to take over the business. I don't want him to do music. He can do it for fun, but not as a career. Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, as Singaporean artists, the first people we are performing to are Singaporeans.
Yes.
And if, let's say, it's not entirely their fault because, probably their parents are telling them, don't participate in the music industry and the business and stuff. So they've got this mindset to always look outward. So when you start participating in the local music scene and start appreciating local artists, there's a tendency that you may want to also follow that footstep, correct? Because artists and athletes are the ones who can truly capture the imagination of young people and inspire them, as opposed to doctor, engineer, scientist.
Though they are important.
Bankers.
Very important, very
But
important.
yes.
But that's the thing that our parents will tell us to be, right?
Yes.
Rarely our parents are going to walk in and say, I want you to be an artist. Oh, hello there. Not going to happen. Yeah.
How are your parents like?
Oh, my parents are, I'm very blessed with an incredibly strong support system at home. I think the whole process of me going into this properly was very much because of my parents, in the sense that they've always known that this is something that I like to do. Like, they are my first audience. Like, when I first wrote my first song, I went to sing it to them. They're like, okay, this is interesting. Then they're like, okay. Then I kept doing it, and they're like, all right.
Did you just imitate your dad?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I heard it.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
My gosh.
But no, I think it started when I was 6 or something, and we were at my uncle's wedding, and then everybody left already, but they were closing up, and then I was like, I want to go on the stage and sing. My dad was like, what? Okay. Then I went and I just sing to like nobody. Then I think they were like, okay, we're in trouble with this one. Then really? Yeah. Then I think when I started writing songs, they've always been very like supportive. They always listen and stuff. Then as I was going from poly to uni, I realized that this is something I really want to do, but I don't know how to get it going properly.
Right.
And then my dad and my mom were like, if you want to do it, you have to give it a proper shot. So they pushed me to like do the whole music video thing and everything. I was thinking like, the people are going to look at this and be like, who does she think she is? Like, what kind of music video? And then I was very like self-conscious about that. But they pushed, without that support, I wouldn't have done it.
It's true.
And that's not something everybody has. I know for a fact. Like, it's been instrumental to my process. And I think that it's worked so well because of them and because I have that kind of confidence in myself thanks to the people that I have at home. And it starts at home, really. Yeah.
For sure, yeah. And I think it's a trend which can change.
Yes.
Like this stigma that we're talking about. Like, now there are more Singaporeans who appreciate, local music. I don't like to use the term because music is music, artist is artist, it doesn't matter.
But because there is that segregation for us, we have to
correct. I can't go on Spotify and say I have no genre. I got to put myself some genre.
I'm a citizen of the world.
What playlist we're going to put you
I'm
in?
fluid. I'm like water. I can't say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the point, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
For an example, I understand that being born in Singapore, I'm Singaporean, I'm also Southeast Asian, I'm also South Asian, I'm also Asian, I'm Tamil, I'm Muslim, I read, Zen philosophy, I'm like a bit all over the place, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I understand all this not to trap myself, but rather to liberate myself.
Yes.
So identity, why we draw these lines or, why we put ourselves in certain compartments is rather to understand ourselves, but not to, segregate ourselves from the bigger picture, right?
Course,
and that's the reason why, as Singaporeans, I do think that it's important to kind of spend some time understanding and empathizing with our history, where we came from, how it all started, why we are here, and why it is the way it is today. And this whole mentality of like, Singaporeans kind of not prioritizing music, for an example, or saying that, there are other things which are more important.
There is reason for it.
There is reason, right? Because, small country in Southeast Asia.
We're not that old.
Yeah, also a constant existential crisis because you don't know whether you'll make it. This whole kiasu thing, it started like pre-independence itself.
Yeah, it's always been. I think it's so embedded in our
So we're always constantly struggling with that. And as human beings, if we can have existential and spiritual crisis, as a nation, we can have too.
Yes.
But it's about how we mediate and negotiate these differences and go forward. And I do believe that art has a very important place and music has a very important place for us as a community, country, and all that. And artists, need to be protected and given that space to create what they want to create. I do believe in that. And when we circle back to the whole thing of, what is the identity, if you're a Singaporean pop musician, how, like, it's such a fluid topic. It's very difficult to answer because the pop music industry wants a hit.
Yeah.
It wants a
business.
hit. It wants something that's gonna make you move upwards, vertically in the Spotify algorithm.
Yes.
But then you've got all these questions to answer too. How do we negotiate those differences? Like, how do you explore your identity in the pop music scene coming from Singapore? Jean, boom. Throw it at you.
It's a question I want to answer too also.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Okay.
Rather than, it's a question, rather than seeing it as a question and answer, maybe let's just have a conversation about it.
Well,
Because you see, okay, let's think about it this way, okay? It's interesting.
Right.
Because you're probably one of the very few pop artists in your space who grew up with the musical diet, like Ame, you mentioned Ame, Taiwanese artist, and then go to school and there's like something else going on. And same goes to me, right? Like I grew up listening to A.R. Rahman, the Grammy Award-winning composer at home. And then my brother plays Guns N' Roses one day, randomly. I don't know how that where that came from. And then he plays Alley Cats from Malaysia. He's listening to all this and I'm also listening.
right.
Then go to school, there's Outkast, there's Tupac Shakur, there's Biggie Smalls, there's Nas. It's like, whoa, that kind of thing. And then you get introduced to a whole new world. Rage Against the Machine, Black Eyed Peas as well. All these things are happening. But I'm the only person, I got Kitaro as well in the mix. So weird, right? Yeah.
Love that.
But probably I'm the only person, or I'm one of the very few people who've got this exact mix. That's my DNA, correct?
Okay.
And if I was born in some other place, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't think it's going to be the
No.
same.
not
It
gonna
will
be-
be
yeah.
different,
It will
correct?
be
Yeah.
different,
And what does that mean to me as an artist now? Yeah, it transpires when I do soundtrack, especially. In pop, it's a bit challenging to bring out, a lot of things, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
But when I do soundtrack, it really helps me a lot because,
Different things
yeah,
that you can
'cause
add.
that's what
into
soundtrack is about. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's about, bringing the world and creating this universe, right? So I'm just curious, like, when you write, now let's kind of think through that.
Okay.
What are those parts of your early influences that's actually subconsciously influencing? And remember one thing,
Right.
you are intellectualizing a process which happened very organically.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be
that's like-
yeah.
Well,
so it's not
yeah.
gonna be all that straightforward, but let's try it. Let's make an attempt.
I think it's interesting because I think somebody has ever given me this comment about one of my songs. It being, even though it's an English song, it kind of has a little bit of like a Chinese chord structure. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So it's just like, interesting, I
And
think
when you say Chinese chord structure, it's like what you hear in Mandopop?
Mandopop,
Right,
like
right.
the
Is it like
the
a ballad?
Yeah, the ballad type kind of vibe to it.
Right.
And it's like, if I were to translate the lyrics from English to Chinese, it would still make sense, like the melody and all that stuff. So that was something that I thought was interesting, like that maybe a part of my childhood was embedded into this song without me realizing it.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about it that way?
No,
First
I
time?
just wrote it like
Right.
without thinking, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's an influence that I think occurred in the song that I didn't realize only until after my friend told me about it.
There you go. And if I move Jean to Taiwan, it's gonna be different. If I move
Different, yeah.
if I move Jean to like Brooklyn, it's gonna be different.
Yeah, it's true. Though.
This sound
Yeah.
that Jean Seizure is producing is exactly happening the way it's happening because Jean was in Singapore.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so
Yeah.
cool. It's
That makes sense.
Wow. Wow,
The
that's not really that way.
chills.
Oh. Woo.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Shazza, I've got something else to point out for yours as well. Would you sing Pity Party, like the chorus and the pre-chorus?
Now?
Yeah, no. If that's okay.
I forgot how it goes. Wait. The
I know the pop at the end.
Heavens.
I know it's ungrateful to be so very hateful at this age. But give me a break. I'm allowed to feel. I'm allowed to steal a couple of moments for myself to wish I could be like anywhere else.
Hey, sorry lah. Wrong.
Right person, wrong time, is it?
Yeah, right person, wrong song.
No, right.
I'm asking the wrong song.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. I
Sorry,
know
sorry.
right person, wrong time.
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
Could you sing that one?
the verse or the
Chorus?
Yeah, the verse.
the rest
Yeah.
of the I comb my hair, I brush my teeth, I close my eyes, I'm counting sheep, but sleep ain't coming to me easy these days.
There you go.
That's the Bollywood in me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You heard that? So when I
Yes.
heard the song, I was like, damn, that's like what we call a sangadi in Carnatic music,
sangadi.
which is a little melismatic notes that you do in a particular way,
Yeah.
So there is a possibility to have a collective consciousness for Singapore artists to understand that these things, it can only happen because we were born in this part of the world.
Yeah.
Understanding all these cultures. Correct? Yeah. And I think that's interesting. And maybe sometimes it's not something we have to do. It's just something we have to be aware of.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? It's like when you sit to meditate, you can't do meditation.
Yeah.
You just have to be aware
You
of
have to
your
let it happen
breathing
to you.
and just,
Yeah.
be in that moment, right? So how we negotiate, with the pop industry and our identity as being born in Singapore with all these influences, it's just that maybe it's about being constantly aware, like how you're aware of your breath.
Yes.
That this is me, this is what where I came from. Maybe I may not represent it at this point, but I still know that that's me.
Yeah.
That's not going to change wherever I am. And that's the reason why I wore batik today, by the way, because my grandmother is a mix of Malay, Pakistani, and Indian.
Oh.
So she's got these mixes, and she always wore batik. So when I got an opportunity to do like a big soundtrack for a very big actor called Ajit Kumar in India, okay? So I did a soundtrack for him. So I was like thinking, what shall I wear today for this, shoot? It's like batik. Yeah. It's, how do I say this, because in an industry like the Tamil film industry, it's fleeting. And it's a lot about, it's like a horse race. It's a lot about who can run faster and can reach the point first. I don't care what you bring. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you came from. I don't care what breed you are. But yeah, can you deliver the hit? That's it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I found it difficult to be in the industry and not ground myself. There was a time I was trying to, also run the race. And then I realized that, no. It's bankrupting me spiritually and,
Yes,
real. And creatively,
Yeah.
So I need to anchor down. So these are little things that I do for myself.
Right.
When I go for that shoot, it's a song done for the Tamil film industry by an artist who's from Singapore, and I want to remember where I come from, so I wore the batik.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It was so this is a conscious decision that I made, you see.
Right.
But there are also subconscious decisions that I make. Like, for an example, my first film score had like the erhu in it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not like, okay, I'm going to use the erhu because, I'm from Singapore. No.
Singapore style.
I gotta put the Singaporean.
Yeah. In fact, there's no place for that in a very highly cutthroat commercial industry. There's no place for these things, you see. And the global pop industry can be like this too.
Yes.
Like I think people use certain sounds to make it exotic so that it can sell, and they may not even be from that culture. You see. Yeah, that happens too as well. Right? Appropriation. What face? Happy.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
It's true though.
So like, there are conscious decisions that we make to incorporate who we are into our artistry, not just music, but artistry.
Yeah.
It could be the way we look, the way we talk, the words we use, all the lyrics we write.
Yeah.
But then the subconscious way. Can you remember instances like that in your creative journey, artistic journey, where you felt like, and when I say identity, we're talking about culture, but it can be so much more than that, correct?
Yeah.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, I could read a text and it's not from the culture that I'm from, but I can still relate to it, and it becomes a part of my identity after a point, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about that. So, coming from Singapore, are there moments in your life where either consciously or subconsciously you like felt, man, that happened, but I never thought about it. It just happened like that.
I mean, for me, consciously, for me personally, I literally wear my religion on my head. So that is something that comes across very clearly, I think, to people who view me as an artist. And regionally speaking, I think it's more common. Like you see more hijabi ladies. It's just that I think in Singapore, it's not prevalent for a hijabi girl to be making English music. You see a lot of hijabi artists, but usually they're from Malaysia or Indonesia or Singapore, but they're making bahasa Indonesian music or Malay music. So that's something that I have noticed, that when people meet me for the first time and they don't know that I make music, and I tell them, they're like, oh, you're a Malay singer. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not even Malay. I'm Indian Muslim. But it's understandable, because that's the common thing, know. So for me, it's a very instrumental part of it's a very conscious thing, is that this is who I am. And I am wearing it because this is who I am. It's my religion is a huge part of who I am. And I think now that like recently with the following that I've gotten, it's been growing a bit.
It's been growing a lot. Both of you.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Yeah, man.
Both of you. I really appreciate the both of you, by the way. I know it's a bit out of time right now, but
no,
I'm very
it's
happy
never the wrong time to say
never
that.
the wrong time.
I'm very happy to be like in the same studio with Shazza and Jean
Same to
Seizure.
you.
Same for you.
And like two of my very favorite like current artists. I don't like to use the word current, but yes, I'll use the word
That
current.
means
Yeah.
Thank you. That's
Thank you.
that's
Cool.
crazy.
Yes, please.
But no, I was just saying that I realized that as the following has been growing beyond the region, because the video that blew up happened to be from American artists, right? I see more like unfamiliarity with this. Like people are more uncomfortable with it here and there. Like people have been a bit more vocal, like, oh, you're Muslim, you know, and a lot of people have been asking me, are you Muslim? I'm like, what do you think? I mean, what? But it's fine, I get it, because maybe I don't wear it the typical way, you know, here and there. But yeah, I think there's been a bit more discussion about how like some people don't think it's right that I'm making music as a hijabi, or they believe that music is haram. There are these, you know, perceptions and stuff. So, but at the same time, it is who I am, and music is who I am. So I think that is a conscious thing for me. It's blending the two. It's not something I want to walk away from. I feel like my intentions are in the right place, and I ground myself in my spirituality as well.
Right.
So yeah, that is a conscious thing for me. Yeah.
So faith is like a crucial part of your artistic identity as well.
I would say, because it's a big part of my image too. When people see me, I am a Muslim woman, and that is what comes first because of what I wear, and it's not something that I shy away from.
Right.
You know, because it is who I am.
Jean, how is it for you?
Wow. Well, we know when we're talking about faith, it's a bit of a interesting topic for me, because I mean, I'm queer and Christian, so then that is like, it doesn't match. Especially in Singapore, sometimes it's hard. So I think that is a big part of my big influence in my music is the fact that I'm queer, and I think I also kind of tried to marry these two things together in one of my songs. Night. I don't know if people notice this, but like the bridge part is like, it feels almost like a worship sort of thing, because like it was about liking somebody in church, and I kind of like wanted like specifically just that kind of feeling of being in church, but then also being queer. So then that's like one of the things that I think has brought me along also, like in terms of my other songs. It's always going to be in the perspective of a queer person, which you don't get very often in Asia, I feel also. Yeah.
So that's the thing, right? I mean, when we are authentic and we lean back into our identity and, you know, our influences, we never know who we are positively impacting. And we need that. We need that in a very cacophonic, distracted, sometimes negative environment.
Yeah.
We need to be us.
Yeah.
Because someone else who is like 12 years old, 13 years old, they're watching and they're feeling inspired and they're feeling companionship.
Right, yeah.
Without you actually being there. That's what music can do, right? It can offer companionship, you know? And that's what our artistry is doing sometimes. So really, I mean, I really appreciate the both of you. I just want to say that at this point.
Thank you.
Two Singaporean artists, really like wearing your identity on your sleeves. And sometimes maybe you're not intending to create a change, but you just being you is changing lives out there. Seriously, you know? If, let's say, I was to embark on a project where I want to give a take of, you know, the Singapore sound, for an example. If I want to do that experiment, walk down that slippery road, okay? I would start thinking about, because it's my interpretation, correct?
Yeah.
And it's going to vary, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah. And the song that I wrote for National Day, Singer-songwriter, is one example.
Love that song.
Love
that song, yeah.
Thank you. So that song is that example where I'm trying to marry these influences and I'm trying to write a love story to my country, the place that I was born in that made me the person I am, rather than a National Day song with the hurrah and stuff. I couldn't do that, actually.
Right.
It was a limitation, to be very honest.
But it came out that way.
I think after a point, they started like taking the song and reinterpreting it.
Right.
And now it's got many versions where you also got that version too, where, you know, it can really rouse everyone and bring everyone together. But when I was writing the song, it was a very personal experience. And there are a few things that were happening. Number one, certainly I'm not, oblivious to home. because that is like the thing we all know that is the best
The
National Day song
ultimate.
sort of thing, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I like What Do You See a lot by Electric.
I love that one. Yeah.
That's my favorite. But of course, we all have to agree that home is like, for everyone. Yeah.
Right.
It's for everyone.
Yeah.
Home is for everyone. Okay.
Genius.
It's mad
Oh my
facts.
gosh.
So when I'm conscious of that when I'm writing Singaporean, but at the same time, it has to be mine, of course. So I'm writing a love song for my country, and there's a lot of Tamil music, Indian influences in the song. I chose it in a particular rag, which is a melodic mode in Indian classical system. But then I also very seamlessly I'm able to integrate the Rabana, Anak Rabana, Ibu Rabana, elements from Malay cultural music, and I really love the sound of the erhu because it reminds me of the human voice, and I always find ways to use it. I get goosebumps when I think about the erhu.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
that can happen.
Damn.
Yeah. So
Okay.
So I'm weaving that into, and then I'm creating something which is the Singapore sound for me. Correct?
Yeah.
That's mine. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? It's being filtered through me.
Of course.
And we are all artists because also of our tastes and our interpretations of things, right? I'll ask you to read this book and, write some lyrics on it. All three of us are going to come up with 3 different results.
Yeah.
Very different ones. We're going to focus on different things too.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, if let's say you were to do something like that, if I give you an exercise, okay? I didn't write Singing Out for NDP though. Let me make that disclaimer here, okay? I
Okay.
wrote it because I just felt that after Muneru Valiba, there's no Tamil song that anyone knew. It was the need of the hour, and as an artist from Singapore, I felt responsible for my society, community, and the country too. So I took on the responsibility, and I also want to show everyone that artists are not non-essential, right? We can be very essential.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I took that time to do it on my own. It was a grown-up effort, actually. It wasn't a top-down thing. It
Right.
wasn't commissioned. Yeah.
Right.
So that's the reason why I also had the freedom to do what I want to do in that sense.
Yeah.
So if let's say you were to do something like that, it could be an album, it could be a song, it could be a soundtrack, maybe no vocals, If you were to do something like Jean, are you able are you able to think of but here's the thing, because I
Yes.
think we already have traces of it, because you're already talking about the Taiwanese heritage, and that is also Singaporean. That is also Singaporean, because that's what makes us, we are a country of descendants of immigrants.
Yeah.
And that story is important.
Yeah.
How would you do it?
Wow.
Boom shakalaka.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, let's go with Shazza first while
Okay.
Jean thinks it over.
I would make it English, and because that is the language we all speak. And I think in recent times, I've had discussions with my family and my parents particularly about the concept of if it's a National Day song, why is it in English? It's because that's what we speak out. That has to be. It makes it fair, because once you introduce other languages, you have to introduce them all, which is not wrong, But I think I would make it English. For me, as a songwriter, I would want to incorporate things that everybody can, when you listen to it, it reminds you of home. You were talking about poetry and how English, a Singaporean poetry.
Yeah.
I did literature, so I remember whenever we were given a poem that was written by a Singaporean, it's so visceral. The way they write, it's things that you wouldn't even think about.
Yeah.
They will write about HDB experience, and you're like, whoa. You can connect with that, but you won't be at home thinking wow, the way the sun filters through my grills. In this Tawapayo estate. You know what I mean? It's the way.
I've never heard anyone say Tuapayo.
How do you say it? How do you say it?
It's Tuapayo.
Wait, did I say it wrong?
Yeah.
No, you didn't say it wrong. You're like, tuwapayo.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
sorry,
Tuapayo.
Tuapayo, yeah.
Dua Lipa's brother.
But yeah, you know what I mean? I think things about being Singaporean, I think for me it would be very lyrical. I would want to incorporate a lot of that in the lyricism. Yeah.
I think that's a great device to even start pondering this question of what the Singapore sound could be, which is to take it from Singapore poetry.
Yes.
Yeah, I would never think about it that
It's
way.
true.
But sometimes, you need to use the back door or the window to come in.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
the
And-
same thing, honestly. Not the same thing, but Singaporean literature is what would be a derivative of the Singaporean sound, because when you think about lyricism, it's in the same,
And
boat.
poetry is so egalitarian that it does not have the limitations that we have of Spotify playlisting and all that kind of stuff. So they can do whatever they want.
Time to switch over to poetry.
Back to poetry. I did poetry for a while.
It's time to switch back to poetry. Yeah.
I am doing it.
You
because,
are?
Yeah. Because I had a little bit of a block last year after another of the 999th crisis and stuff. So I was like, okay, I need to do something about this.
Good?
You're good?
Yeah. I'm okay. Chill. Yeah.
Yes.
You just need to stop reading all this kind of stuff. Then
because it's all depressing,
I
stuff.
know. Yeah.
They tend to be going through stuff too.
Actually.
Yeah.
That's why.
Whenever you read about
Sometimes it's I'm actually, maybe that's no wonder. Like, oh my God, it's me. No wonder life sucks, you know?
Yeah.
So like when you're going through a writer's block after, a certain, moment and you want to change form.
Mm-hmm.
It could be anything. You know what I'm saying? It could even be a sport. Like Jean, you've got that, right?
Yeah.
You're doing like acting and you're doing like martial arts and stunts and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm
fighting my
sure,
demons.
like,
You go, girl.
I'm sure there's been a day
Yes.
where you couldn't write something,
Just
and
go
then
and,
you
like-
go and do something and come back, and suddenly you feel more free.
Yeah, definitely. Like moving my body, stance is so expressing, right? So it's like when you're doing a sport, you're using your body movements to express yourself, like express what you want. Yeah.
So when I had this problem where I couldn't sit and write anymore for a while, I was like, man, let's try poetry, because I used to write poems, you see.
Yeah.
And I'm like, slowly I found the muscle to start writing songs again. Because poetry is such a thing where you don't need to think about who you're writing for.
Yeah.
Because there's probably no one listening to it. No, I'm not that.
Nobody cares about poetry.
That's the perpetual.
No.
No, it's just that the scene where where poetry slams happen, they're very forgiving and they're very accepting, and they accept all kinds of poems, and there's no playlisting to meddle with and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you're kind of free
It's
from
very
all these
organic.
limitations.
It's
It's very organic,
It's true.
So I do think that I'm going to mark this down. When I embark on that project, I'm going to take this tip that Shazza, you kind of inspired me
Yippee!
with.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Poetry as a way, Singapore poetry as a means to
Understand the Singaporean sound.
really go deeper into our identity. That's one way to do
very
it.
cool.
Yeah.
Pretty solid, huh?
It is.
When I like sometimes when I'm really uninspired, then I'm on Instagram. Then sometimes my explore page is like poetry, right? And
Same,
I'm like,
yep.
whoa! Then I feel inspired.
Right, you're like,
You write about it.
It's literature, you know,
is,
and
yeah,
literature is it's beautiful.
Jean,
Huh?
what would you do?
I think sounds of like a Singaporean environment would be in the track somehow. I don't know how
The
that's
beep,
gonna...
beep, 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 beep
Yeah,
from
like
the train.
Oh man, that one. Can't do anything about that one.
I mean, but or just being like in a Singaporean environment, like a soundscape inside my ears kind of thing, where like even if you're a Singaporean overseas, you're listening to it and you're like,
You feel like you're home.
you're like, oh shit, I'm in MRT and it's crowded. That kind of thing. And then I also agree that I think in the lyrics also, because like lyrics really speak to me, right? So I think in terms of like the things that they say would be kind of Singaporean, but I don't think it would be like, law stuff. It's just more of like, I guess like an expression of an emotional mind state. Yeah, these kind of stuff. And then maybe some very subtle like ethnic instruments, like the angklong, this kind of thing. Yeah.
So your approach would be more of like creating a sense of space.
Yeah, like
and bringing the listener into that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not like I don't know how to use like all these Ableton Logic Pro stuff.
Yeah, we do.
Girl.
Great.
We can help you.
Okay.
Connections.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but like stuff like that.
So yeah, I think that's interesting. One person would start from the lyrics, seek out poetry.
Yeah.
Another person would start from the sound.
Yeah.
I love that though. Like I think I would really enjoy listening to something like that, because it's like it's something that if you're ever away.
Yeah.
You know how some people are like, wow, I love it when I take the plane, then I come home, right? Then it's Singapore Airlines. Then they'll be like, to all Singaporeans, welcome home, right?
Someone put that in their song.
Yeah.
Really?
I think so.
Cool.
I don't know, but I feel like somebody has
But you
done
know what I
it.
mean? It's
But
things like that
kind of
that
feeling.
you overlook in your day to day.
Exactly.
But then when you are looking back at it, you're like, damn, I love Singapore, you know?
Yeah.
And it could just be like the sound of like, sitting under your HDB block.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like when I'm traveling, I come back to Singapore and then, the security at the airport. Excuse me, sir, this way. So, man, I miss my Chinese uncle.
Whenever you're overseas and then you like somebody walking past and you're like, yeah lah.
Where you?
You know, whoa. Yeah, you know, when I went overseas, and it was such a nice experience to be in Europe, but I missed Singapore because like for me personally, it was the transport. Sorry, this is a bit of a tangent, but like wow, our transport system.
It really is very good.
It's great.
Like you go to Japan,
really
like, huh? How to understand what's going on?
Yeah, I was in Amsterdam and I was trying to buy a ticket for the tram.
Right.
The ticket machine was broken. When I got onto the tram, there was nobody in the ticket machine, like the counter. Then I was trying to push past. I was trying to get past this like British man and his wife, and I was like, oh sorry. Then he was like, well, we haven't got any room, have I? I was like, what the heck, man? Like, I miss Singapore. I really miss Singapore. So I was so happy to be home. Yeah.
And like, imagine like bringing those things that we miss about Singapore into the soundtrack or into the song.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of sick.
Yeah, it'd be cool to like make somebody who is overseas like cry.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
That's how this
mildly
sounds.
sadistic, but okay.
No. That is the essence of being
you
a
want them
creator.
to
You want them to
feel.
feel. Yeah.
I feel like people don't really feel nowadays, or they like shy away from all these emotions, but it's what makes you human, right?
Yeah.
So
when you shower, the water purifies your body from the outside, but tears are the only thing that can purify you from the inside.
Oh, wow.
So it's so important to cry, I think. Take that.
Damn. Oh my God.
I'll never look at crying the same way again.
So yeah, I agree with what you say. If someone can make someone cry, that's something. If an artist can make someone cry, that's really something.
And imagine making somebody cry with the sound of the ooh bird. That's crazy. Like you're like, oh my God, how is Singapore? Like, it's quite funny.
Looking out the window, like, what are you listening to?
When I was there, I was cursing and swearing, but now I'm crying. I miss this bird.
What I would give to hear you
What
again.
I give, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So thank you very much, Jean and Shazza, for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I really had a very insightful conversation, and I even took away some ideas on how to do it if we want to do something like the Singapore sound.
Yes.
And it's also interesting to know that, your generation is interested in something like that. Because when I spoke to the both of you, the impression that I got from, the more senior generation is that I don't think, youngsters would be interested in something like that. Because even my gen, we're not really thinking about that much, you see.
Right.
But I can see that you guys are really passionate about it. And like you're like, you've thought about it subconsciously or consciously. But I think it's something which we cannot part with. This place that we are born in, we're raised here. It's embedded in us.
Yeah.
And I think it's all about, thinking whether do we want to be aware of it or not.
True.
We're doing it subconsciously, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think when we bring more awareness to it, maybe there could be different possibilities opening up. And there could be more, us exploring ourselves, our identity. And at the same time, also, it could lead way to more cross-pollination. And I think that's what I took away from, this conversation. And I really hope that, it also doesn't need us to do something, but at least ponder over it.
Yeah.
Meditate.
It has to happen organically.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we just start conversations to just bring awareness.
That's where it starts, yes.
Yeah, but when it happens, it happens.
It happens.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it to happen.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
There's no one bad though.